Alrighty, so we are going to continue. I think I was able to answer the questions that were in the chat. Someone asked, "Oh, Michael, hurricanes. Yeah, you guys worry about hurricanes. Well, you do too in North Carolina, but you know, we all have time. When those hurricanes come, we got 7 days, man, before we got to pack up and move out or not. So, oh, you're born in Miami. Poof, you get a lot more than we do here in Tampa. We haven't had a direct Tampa hit, and I'm knocking on wood, since I think 1905. So we've been really lucky. Alrighty, so I think I was able to answer the questions. Robert wanted to see how we can move or copy files. I gave a good I gave a good link on one of our support documents. And then Jennifer was asking, "Hey, how do I get a report of everything that's being shared out?" I gave the instructions on how to grab that off of a site as well. If I missed anything, let me know, and I'll be happy to come back to it. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about security. Security. It's all about permissions and security and what you have access to and what you don't have access to. So a couple of things to know. And if you've worked in SharePoint, SharePoint by default has 3 sets of permissions. Visitors, which get read. Members, which have contribute, meaning they can edit and delete to what currently exists. And then there's full control. Full control, everything. I can delete the sites, I can delete the libraries, I can create new libraries, I can assign permissions. Full control, in other words. However, when it comes to Microsoft 365 groups, there's only 2 types of permissions. And I show them in my second and third bullet on here. A group owner, I think we talked about it extensively already. The group owner is also the site collection admin. So they have the keys to the kingdom. Can't be denied anywhere. Group members can contribute to whatever that group has access to. So if there's a library, I can add files, no problem. If there's a list, I can add, etc., etc. So those are the 2 types of permissions when it comes to Office 365 groups. There is no such thing as a group visitor. Okay, we're going to talk about it. And this particular module sometimes stirs up a bunch of questions, which is good because I really want you to take home that understanding of permissions and how it works. So there are group permissions, then there's SharePoint permissions. I'm going to cover them, okay? All righty. So we looked at groups. We talked about Office 365 groups. This example here we're looking at on the screen on the right-hand side. Hey, this is being done in Outlook. I can go into Outlook under groups and I can go find groups if they are a public group. Oh, I want to join, Paul's bike rider club because he made it a public group. Let me join it. I can. That's the difference. Remember, private, nobody even knows it exists. Public, anybody can find it, anybody can join. Always keep that in mind. What public and private. So your private groups, nobody sees anything unless they are part of the group. Nobody can find the group. They can't find that. Remember how I told you when we create a group, we get a shared mailbox and calendar in exchange. Well, guess what? That's not in the global. Okay, it can be added, but it's not because it is when it's a private group, it is not in the global. When it's a public group, absolutely can find it, add it, join it, do all the things that everyone else can. Okay. So that's the basic differences between the private and the public. Private is only by invitation only, right? The elite, right? Hey, just my team, my folks, my guys, my gals, our group. That's a private team. I want to make a public group. Let's say, for example, hey, North Carolina for people that like to go RVing. I make a public group for people that like to go RVing in the Blue Ridge Mountains. Excuse me. Awesome. I can join that group and collaborate. Hey, where's the best place to park my RV? Where's the best view? What's the best time of the year to go? We can have all that discussions inside of that group, inside of that team, or however it was made, but it was made public. So I can find it and I can join it. Cool.
We've got a question. Jillian is asking, can't you change the permission settings based on the group?
Yes. So if I created it public and I want to make it private, I can. If I made it private and I want to make it public, yes, I can. Is so you can go back and forth if needed. Does that answer her question?
Jillian, does that answer your question?
Sort of.
And Christine is asking, by public, do you mean general public or public to all of those within the organization?
Absolutely good question. And gosh, you're right. I hesitate at times using that term public because that's first thing most state organizations think. John Q resident? No. NC.gov email address? Yes. So yes, only folks within your organization in the state of North Carolina can get into those public groups. Not John Q resident at gmail.com or Hotmail or Comcast or whatever. No, they cannot. Your nc.gov or state.nc.us, whatever the email addresses that people use, ncagr.gov, all of those email addresses that are part of the state employees, I guess probably the best way to summarize it. So Jillian, I would love to understand your question. Would you mind coming off of mute? Chat with me?
Yeah, trying to see how I explain it. So as you said, like with each group, there's the permissions, I guess there's the roles, right? That they play in the group. I was wondering like if there was like more specific settings in it to where yes, one group is read only, but certain users in that group could access different files and were able to make edits to just those specific files.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. And I love your question. So thank you for coming off and clarifying that with me. Yes, when it comes to SharePoint, we can get super granular. We can, and now remember, we're talking Office 365 groups, and I'm making my way into SharePoint groups. SharePoint groups are different. Those are local to only that SharePoint site. And any site that is built, you get 3 default SharePoint groups: members, owners, visitors. And by default, the visitors have read-only. Additionally, you can take it a step further, Jillian. If you really wanted to get super creative, you can even create a local SharePoint group that has contribute, meaning, hey, you can edit everything that we've got on here. You can add files, you can add things to the list, but you can say, but this particular SharePoint group does not have delete. So it could be edit, but no delete. So you can create custom permission levels in SharePoint as well.
Okay. Yeah, no,
that helped.
Yeah, it did.
Cool.
It did help a lot. Thank you.
Awesome. You're very, very welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So looking at here, so what happens when we convert a team site to a group site? Remember, sometimes you can ask, hey, SharePoint team, I need you to build me a site. I don't need a group. I don't need the shared mailbox and calendar. I don't need the teams. I don't need Planner, Yammer Stream, all that kind of neat stuff. Then you realize a couple of months down the road, God, it would really benefit where we can have meetings around this, where we can have channels inside of teams where we can discuss different topics and keep all of that that information, all those discussions segregated from each other. So when you convert that team site to a group site, okay, couple of things. That very bottom bullet is the most important bullet on that screen. Is you can't go back to, well, we didn't need the team, we didn't need the share, the calendar and mailbox and exchange. So can we get rid of the group? Once it's associated to a group, it is bound. Everything is bound to that group. So it cannot be undone. There is an option. It's a horrible option, but we can build another site and then migrate that content over and eventually delete the original site that probably had the URL you wanted to go and do all of that stuff. So decide carefully. If you go to a non-group connected site and then you say, hey, I want a group, understand you can't go back. All right, so we started talking a little bit about SharePoint groups. The biggest thing to take away when it comes to SharePoint groups, those are specific to that site. So Jillian, I'm going to use you at this particular moment. Jillian calls DIT, says, hey, I need a SharePoint group connected site. They're like, awesome. What do you want it to be called? Jillian's Fashion Store. Okay, so they built her a site in the state of North Carolina's tenant called Jillian's Fashion Store. Group connected. Beautiful. She was the group owner. Remember, group owners have access to everything. She can never be denied anything in her entire site, anywhere. She adds her friend Sally, who's her co-designer, and she now is also an owner. Then she adds all of her friends in there as members to the group. That group, if she extends that SharePoint site to Teams, they get also access to Teams. If she creates a planner, they get access to Planner automatically. Now, what can these people do inside of SharePoint? So in Jillian's Fashion Store that we built in the state of North Carolina, there are 3 local SharePoint groups. Jillian's Fashion Store owners, Jillian's Fashion Store members, Jillian's Fashion Store visitors. Those groups are only visible inside of Jillian's Fashion Store site. Christine says, hey, I've got a pretty cool site for designers. I'm going to add Jillian's Fashion Store visitors. Guess what? Christine will never find them because that site, those groups, those 3 local SharePoint groups are specific to Jillian's site and Jillian's site only. Can't add those SharePoint groups to her designer site. Okay, does that make sense? Before I go further, I gotta make sure this only exists in that SharePoint site. That makes sense. Okay. So I did mention the default groups whenever a SharePoint site is built. Bob's Bait and Tackle. I get a Bob's Bait and Tackle visitors, Bob's Bait and Tackle members, Bob's Bait and Tackle owners. Okay, which I cannot use anywhere else. I can't use it on Jillian's, can't use it on Christine's. Only in Bob's Bait and Tackle site. Right. You do have the ability to create new SharePoint groups, and this is where I was talking about, hey, I want to create a new permission where these guys and gals, whoever I add in here, they can add to everything, but they can't delete. You can customize the permissions. Okay. Then you see some of the options like who can view, who can edit the members, all that kind of neat stuff when you're creating a group. The best thing for you to do is copy an existing group. So remember, we have Jillian's fashion design, fashion store members. I want to copy that, but I want to take off the ability to delete. And you can do that when you copy that group and say, then you'll have the option to see all the permissions that are listed in there and you remove delete. Then you give it the name, Jillian's Fashion Store with no delete. So you know what that's for. There we go. So users should be inside of groups and those groups will have the appropriate level of permissions. Now, I do want to tell you what is considered a Microsoft best practice. We should not, and I mean ever, 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 never, ever, just add users to SharePoint groups. Can you? Of course you can. Management of it is a nightmare later on. When that site builds and lots of people are in it, you don't know when this person has left the company or has switched to a new role that no longer requires permissions inside of your site. But because you've added, these 87 people individually, you don't know who left. You don't know who shouldn't have access anymore. That's why I strongly recommend never, ever, ever add users to SharePoint groups, because you just don't know who does what, when, where, who leaves, whatever, who's no longer supposed to have access. Now, if you ask the IT, can you build me a security group, which I think is what's coming up. Let me go through this. All right. Just kind of finish off with this. Can you? Yes, you can. It becomes a management of permission nightmare later on. You can add users, yes, to SharePoint groups. Yes. Is it a Microsoft best practice? No, it is not. And the reason being is you can use things that are called security groups. Security groups are created by the DIT. So let's give an example. I want to add all these people back to Jillian's site, but I'm asking DIT, hey, add these 87 people to the Jillian's contributor security group that I'm asking them to build me. So they build that security group, add the 87 people. They go, here you go. This is the name of the group, Jillian. Add it wherever you feel like it. Now, somebody is in, one of the 87 people is in there, now moves over to a different part, no longer part of fashion or design, now is more in marketing. Well, that person, when they get assigned a new role, they took a new position, security in your Active Directory team should look at the groups that user had access to. Hey, no longer designer, now it's going into the marketing. Let's pull all of the designer groups out and assign all the marketing. Now, by virtue of the Active Directory team doing that, the permissions are removed from that person from your site. Can no longer access Jillian's site, can no longer contribute, can no longer edit things, because that security group was taken from that user. Okay, so what should we use? Distribution groups or security groups? By now, I'm sure you've read what's on here. Security groups is definitely the way to go. If you're asking Greg personally, professionally, you ask Karen, you ask Ronnie, you ask any of them, they're going to tell you, got to go security groups, guys. Security groups is the way to go. Okay. Inside of SharePoint groups. Now, SharePoint has that wonderful capability of going very granular with permissions. Awesome. By default, everything in SharePoint inherits permissions. So if I have a library, consider a library a file cabinet, okay? In that file cabinet is in this office. So that office is the SharePoint site. Whoever has access to the office has access to those files in the file cabinet. That is by virtue of inheritance. SharePoint does have that functionality and capability to allow you to take and go very granular. Okay, so inside of this file cabinet, I have a folder with 3 files, but I want specific permissions to that folder and those 3 files underneath it to this security group. Awesome. You can do that. You can get very granular to the file, to the folder, to the library, etc. in SharePoint. But it will become a little more difficult for you as a site owner, site admin, to manage permissions. when you get very granular. That's okay. That is the power of SharePoint. And I think that's also why the question was asked earlier. Hey, Greg, how do I see, who's got access to what and the sharing permissions and all that kind of neat stuff? Because it can get very granular. Okay. So looking at this picture of a hierarchy of permissions here, I can grant permissions at the site collection, and if it's inherited, everything down below it you'll have access to. But you can go into individual files and say, Sally has access to this, but not that. Bill has access to these three, but not that. You can get very granular. That automatically breaks inheritance. So now you've got to manage permissions, a little more difficult. But by default, list items inherit the permissions from the list inherits it from the site, if it happens to be a subsite, and it goes all the way up to the top level site collection. And of course, people always ask, well, Greg, what would you consider a best practice? Okay. If it's absolutely necessary, if it's one of those business requirements, I've got to get granular permissions, that's fine, you can. But if it's not necessary, keep inheritance, man. It will make your job of managing permissions later on a whole lot easier for you. I think I demoed this earlier when I was looking up. Oh, sorry, my wife Peggy didn't have access to that stuff. Somebody said, sorry, by the way, I read that I read that comment to my wife. I said, babe, somebody said, sorry that you don't have access to that file. And she kind of chuckled. But yeah, it's simple. You go into the list or library settings and say, show me the permissions. And you start typing in somebody's name and click enter. And then it tells you what that person has access to. These are just some common practices. I've learned to no longer say common sense because I realized after my wife and I got married and she has an autistic boy, that common sense is just not common, man, especially with folks with autism. It's what I thought was originally common sense didn't register the same for him. So I've learned to take common sense and just throw it out of my vocabulary. Okay, but these are just some common practices to use when assigning permissions. Okay, just if anything, always use that third one there. Security groups, man, security groups. Can you do individual users? Yes. Should you? Depends. If it's going to grow, no. I would go security groups then. Okay. And then this last one here is determining whether you want to allow everyone into your tenant or into your site or into your folder, into your library. So just some common practices. All right, so here we have a pop quiz. I didn't kind of cover that. What are the securable objects? But it just makes sense. What can we secure with permissions? Anything. A file, a library, a folder, to a library, to the entire site itself. What SharePoint security gives them? I'm not going to pop this one up. I want somebody to come off the mute. What are the 3 default groups, that local SharePoint groups that are created when a site is created?
Visitors
Owners,
is one.
members, visitors.
Members, owners, and visitors.
You guys are all correct. It was funny because I had heard someone said members and then only, and I thought of the old jacket. The members only jacket. Yeah, I'm dating myself. All right. Which permission level? I probably didn't cover this, but I'm going to see how well you've been paying attention today. Has all permissions, including up to and deleting the entire site.
Owner.
Owners.
Yeah. Yes. Do you remember the name of the permission level?
Group owner.
All right, you guys are like, you're right there, but it is the full
Full
control. Yeah, because they got control over everything. Gatekeepers. All right. Can Azure AD groups, security groups, be added into SharePoint local groups? If you say no, I'm going to cry. We're going to
No, I was
start
gonna
this
say
whole.
yes.
I'm
Yes.
going to. Okay,
Yes,
if not,
you
I'm
said that
starting
in
the
the
whole
beginning.
slide deck over.
Yeah, you said yes. That was earlier.
Yes, absolutely. It's what you got to do. It's really the best thing to do. All right. This one, can Azure Active Directory security groups be added in M365 group permissions? This one is a no. I didn't cover that in the slides earlier. I may have passed it on. Remember, we can only add users into those groups. Remember that Office 365 group. There are differences. There's the Office 365 group, which gives me access to SharePoint, Teams, Stream, Yammer, Planner, etc., etc. The SharePoint groups only gives me access to that SharePoint site only. Cool. All right, that wasn't too hard. Kind of a couple of things that we covered. How do we feel personally, guys? I really want to know how you guys feel right now about security and permissions. Oh, there's a hand raised. I'm sorry, Michael. Talk to me.
Just a quick question, because, we've been in SharePoint for a while now. But probably before we really got heavy into things like the Azure security groups and all that. If we have in the past gone through adding people in to provide access through I did make groups and I did put people in the groups into SharePoint. But they're not necessarily, I don't believe, the same as the Azure security groups. If we do decide to go out there and create those as well, can we just translate the people into that, add them to the respective locations, and then remove them as a local entry?
Oh, I would love for you to do that.
Okay.
I would love for you to do that. Absolutely. So, and sure, yes, creating SharePoint groups and you're adding all the people. That's what I'm saying. Can you? Yes, you can. Is it recommended by us? No, but you can. But remember, if you start knowing that this is going to grow or people come and go, maybe there's turnover in the state. I have no idea. You have no idea who's left, who really requires access when that list grows, 80, 100, 200 people. You're like, I don't even remember when I added that guy a couple years from now. And does he or she still need access? Are they even coming to my site? Security groups is the best way to go. By the way, you've got a great name, by the way, Michael. I don't know if you know, but as you saw originally, I'm originally from New York. The Yankees have a superstar pitcher named Michael King, by the way. Just thought
That's good
I'd
to know.
share that.
Good to
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, man, he was awesome pitcher. And then he cracked an elbow and went out last year. I was so upset. So upset, but he's back. He's going to be right back. And by the way, here in Tampa is Yankee spring training home. It's a beautiful thing. It's the reason why I moved here, by the way. All righty. We're going to go talk about sharing and links and guests. Guests is a big thing, right? Everybody says, hey, well, we can share, but who can we share with? Understand that there are limitations, there are restrictions that are imposed by DIT, okay, as well as maybe the security team, who you can and cannot collaborate with externally. Does it mean it's hard and stone that I have to work with a guy or gal from FBI.gov, but they're not in our tenant, so we can't. There are ways and exceptions that can be done, but of course, whatever the internal processes are to request an exception or request an additional domain to collaborate with, that can be done. Additionally, and these are things that I teach your SharePoint admins is, well, what you can do as well is you can say, okay, we have 1,800 sites, but only these 30 can share externally. So if you need to collaborate with somebody outside of nc.gov, then we're going to give you access to this site, one of those 30, and you can work with somebody at vendora.com or Microsoft.com or somebody at Gmail, whatever the case might be. It can get very granular on a site by site basis. Okay, those are the things that I would teach your administrators should the need arise. Like, hey, well, we're not allowed to share externally. Well, what happens when HR says, hey, guess what? Our benefits package is up for bid. So now we've got to get bid and proposals from Aetna and from Blue Cross and all these other companies. Well, you got to work with somebody at .com, because they have to send over all their files and their requests for bids or proposals and all that neat stuff. And somebody needs to look at them, but they're too big to email. So it can happen. Even if external sharing is disallowed for all other sites, there could be 1, there could be 30, or it could be on a case-by-case basis. Right now, probably the SharePoint admins are like, oh, Greg, I wish you would have said that. It's the truth. I got to be honest here. So setting up and managing that request, if let's say even internally at nc.gov, one of your colleagues sends an email, hey man, here's our site, come check it out. They click it and they get the, sorry, Charlie, access is denied. They can fill out a, mother, may I please join the Cool Kids Club, and click submit. And that access request goes to the site owners, which is why I stressed in the very beginning, have more than one. Because if it goes to the one person who happens to be out on 4 months of maternity leave, and right about the end of that 4 months, she says, I'm out, I'm done, I'm not coming back. Now, one, it's an orphan group, and that request for access never gets fulfilled. Always have more than one owner. But this is how you would look and set up those managed requests. You know, when someone says, hey, I would like to have access, you can just give the flat out access denied and not even give them the ability to say, may I please join your cool club? You can do that as well. And then who does that go to? Always goes to the owners. Okay? Sharing content. Gotta love, because sharing is absolutely the best way to say sharing is caring. You see that little share icon in the upper right-hand corner of the screen here, right up here. That icon is not only on the site, it's also on the library, and it's also on the file. So that same icon, that little folder with the arrows jumping out of it, it's like, hey, here I am, come and join me. I want to collaborate with you. That share icon is not only at the site level, because you can share an entire site. Hey, come on in and check out our site. Or you could set a library. This is that file cabinet. Okay, the library is a file cabinet. Hey, come in and see all of our files. They can't see anything else, but they can see your file cabinet. Or you can go all the way down to a folder and say, okay, you can't see the whole library. You can see this folder with these 3 files in it. Or you can get even more granular and go all the way down to, hey, I'm sending this over to Ralph. Ralph, you can come to our site, but the only thing you see is that one file, nothing else. That's how granular you can get with permissions. But when you share, you will look for that little icon and share it out. There's also the ellipse. When you click on the ellipse on most options, most items, you'll see share is one of the options. You begin typing in their email address and click send, and or click save, and they get an invitational email that says, hey, we want to share this file with you. Come check it out. Let me bring up all this stuff here. Okay, how do we track access requests? And I think I kind of pulled this up earlier. Remember, can anyone guide me through really quickly? How do I get to here? It starts one place.
In the
And it
settings,
well, how do I get to that?
you go up to the gear at the top of your page.
Yes, thank you. I'm going into the gear. I'm going into site information. Then I'm going to view all site settings. Thank you so much for that. Answer, yes, you're correct. We start at the Spacely Sprocket, site info, view all site settings. Then I'll have, if I'm an owner, I'll see this users and permissions. And then I can see, oh, man, I sent this out to this user, 87 days ago. Delete it. Apparently, Vicky doesn't need to come in. So see you later. Goodbye.
And Greg, we have a question from Julie that says, what is the difference between share and copy link to share? We were told not to use share, but copy link instead. And that is what we have been advising people is a best practice.
Okay.
They shouldn't click the share button because it can influence permissions, break in permissions on other issues, other items.
Okay. Well, you just gave the exact answer. It's because it can break those other types of permissions. The copy link, if that's what your practice is inside of the state of North Carolina, then by all means, let's do that. They both work. Sharing obviously does that modification of permissions. Copy link gives them an edit to that document, and then they're done. So I did not know that was you guys' practice, and that's perfectly fine. Absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, and thanks for the question. Somebody new. You said Julie. I got another name I can use.
That was Julie.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Julie. All right. So we were just talking about that, copy link thing. Here's our options. Okay, here's the things that you're looking to ask yourself. What if I want to share this one specific thing with someone? Yeah, you can create those shareable links. Just copy that link and send it out. Okay, so looking here, when you do share, okay, you do have the ability, and part of this default experience, okay, this is the default experience in this slide. I don't know what it is for the state of North Carolina, but I've worked with the SharePoint admins that they have the ability to make the default experience for everyone though. When you click share, it can be either be read only first, then you have to change it to allow them to edit, or it can be edit and they can change it to view only. Okay, so but that default experience is set by the SharePoint admins, and it's not on a person-by-person basis. It is a tenant-wide sharing option. So notice here, it was set to specific people in this example and to allow editing. The state may have it say, the state of North Carolina, and view only. Okay, now that I want to cover that. Remind me, Karen, when I finish this slide deck to pull up a quick moment of my SharePoint Admin Center. Is that okay?
Okay.
So I can show those changes and how that works. All right, how do you track them? Look at that. Check it out. You can look at a specific file and you can say manage access. And then if it has this little link on there, that means there was a shareable link inside of that, means there are unique permissions or unique sharing has been done with this specific file. Now, Karen, help me understand external sharing. Is it enabled in your environment?
It depends on the site.
Okay, awesome. I love it. So we're going a site-by-site basis, which I mentioned earlier, we can have 1,800 sites, but only these 30 can share outside of something.gov, whether it's NC or ncagr.gov or some of the others .gov that are all state employees. Those sites allow external sharing. External sharing is somebody that doesn't have that email address, like me, greg.rojas@microsoft.com. I don't have an nc.anything. So I'm an external access. How do we do these things? If the site is allowed, then you can share with external. You can also track those external invitations. Hey, I sent them out. Greg never accepted it. It's been sitting out there for, I gave him access for 3 months. It's been sitting there. It's got 3 days till it expires. Forget Greg. Remove his access. I sent him the invite. He never accepted. he's not worthy of coming in anyway. Delete it. Or extend it or send another invite. Hey, I sent this to you like 5 days ago. Oh yeah, I was out with my family. I had, we got the vid. We got COVID. We were sick. Oh, my bad. I hope you're feeling better. Make sure you access that site before your invitation expires. Okay? Some best practices. I'll pull these up here. Understand when you do share, just like we did when we were covering the permissions module a little while ago, we want to go with the least privilege access, especially if they're not a North Carolina state employee. Do I need to share the entire site? No. Do they need to see everything? No. I need them in this folder. Awesome. Share the folder. They don't need to see these lists. They don't need to see these other libraries. They don't need to see who the points of contacts or these other web part pages that say, the employee of the month. They don't need to see any of that stuff. Because sometimes these external users will take that and use it for their own benefit. Oh, now I know who the CIO is. We can reach out to him and try to get a meeting in with him or her and set up a briefing and have a demo, and we can make some money off of it. Not cool. Not how we should. So always remember, least privilege access first. Okay. This sensitive stuff, that's super important, and we're still working, with my security guys on sensitivity labels. Labels are really, really important as well. And this is outside of the SharePoint Online user class that we're doing right now. But what we're working on is getting sensitivity labels. For example, the Department of Revenue and Tax or whatever, they have lots of files that contain users' personal data. Social Security numbers, W-2s, whatever. Should that ever be shared outside of the company? Maybe with irs.gov only, maybe, or maybe not. But if we can get these sensitivity labels to mark those documents as, let's say, PII, personal identifiable information, and then there's a rule that if that document or folder or library or site is marked as PII, then zero external sharing will be allowed. This way, that disgruntled employee on a Friday afternoon doesn't take all of that stuff and shares it to, the dark web folks, because he can't. Okay, sensitivity labels are super important, and we're working on getting a lot of that stuff implemented throughout the state of North Carolina. Okay, knowledge check. Can we share externally? In other words, can I add Greg at Microsoft.com to an M365 group? I don't recall if I said this, so I'm going to go ahead and give you the answer. The answer is no. Okay. I can be added as a guest into the state of North Carolina with my Microsoft.com email address. Can't get into those groups though. Any site user can approve sharing. I think this one's a no-brainer, but I'm going to let somebody answer it.
No.
That's right, man. It's a 50-50, and it was more like a 90-10 chance of getting it right? No, only the site owners and site collection admins can review and approve or deny those sharing requests. All right, cool. We're doing great on time. Any other questions so far, Karen? We're doing all right?
Let's take a look. Nope, we don't have any new questions.
Sweetness. By the way, I want to go on record, Karen. You've been an incredible moderator for me, and I thank you so much. I really do.
Well, thank you. You've been a great presenter. We really loved having you.
I'm hoping I'm not putting anybody to sleep. You know, I try never to do death by PowerPoint, and I love all my colleagues. I've sat in on some where they sit there and they almost read the entire slide, and I'm like, oh, I want to bang my head against the wall because that's death by PowerPoint, man. Talk to me. That's how I prefer to be taught. So that's how I like to teach. I like to teach it all, number one. I don't just teach what's on the slide. That's why I sometimes veer off topic and come right back. But I want you guys to get that holistic understanding of as much of it as you possibly can. And try to keep it not so boring, because I'm not going to read words on the slide to you.
And I
All
did
right.
want to add, I'm getting ready to place a link to our feedback form in the chat. So folks, when you get a chance, please share your feedback on today's session. We would appreciate it.
And my name is Ralph Macchio. I'm teasing. All right. All right. Hey, just in case somebody wants to say, no, he was awful. Just my name was Ralph. I'm teasing. I'm teasing. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some of these lists and libraries things. What are they? Well, they're kind of the same, right? They're just containers inside of SharePoint for you to put stuff in. A library is for files, which makes sense, right? You put you put books in a library, you put files in a library. When it comes to a list, it's kind of like an online spreadsheet. Okay. A list is where you can see and add rows and fill in columns of data. It just kind of looks like a online spreadsheet. Okay? Let me pull this stuff up. One too many clicks. Sorry about that. It says here there can be many lists and libraries. I do want to make sure you know there are limits. Okay. A SharePoint site collection or a site can have a maximum of 2,000 lists or libraries. Each one of those lists or libraries can contain a maximum, not you, Karen, can anybody take a guess? No Googling, no Binging it, no Yahoo, no DuckDuckGo. Don't do an internet search. Just take a guess. What is the maximum number of items a library can have? If you give me the specific number, I know you looked it up.
32,000.
Good number, but you're like 1%. It's 30 million. Every list and library can store up to a maximum of 30 million items. That includes folders and files, and that includes list items. So 30 million.
That's something I didn't even know.
Really? Oh, well, I'm sorry we haven't had that because we chat like every week.
I
Wish I
know.
would have. So lists and libraries are, what do they call? They're considered built-in apps. Apps are what everything that we use in SharePoint Online now. Everything is an app. Just like you look at your phone nowadays, everything is an app. Costco, Amazon. Well, I'm on both of those all the time. They're all apps. So is everything in SharePoint. We're trying to switch that mentality of web parts and say, well, it's an app. Why? We're just modernizing the name of it. It was originally a web part. Now it's an app. Okay, fine. But these lists and libraries have been in SharePoint since the beginning. Lists and libraries have been around literally since the very beginning in 2001. And that's a long time ago. Excuse me. All right, creating a list or library, pretty simple. When you're on any SharePoint site, provided you have access and you have the appropriate permissions. Okay, access is, can I get there? And the permissions, what can I do once I'm there? The permission is if I have, not contributor, but if I have editor, that's the minimum. Editor means I can create new lists and libraries. Contributor means I can add to what exists. I can't build a new library. I can't build a new list. I can edit and delete and so forth, but I can't do anything with the list or library. I can add files, I can modify files, I can add rows to the list. I can't change the list or library, and I can't build a new one. Okay, so there's editor and there's contributor. But if you have the appropriate level of permissions, you're going to go in and you'll see every home page has the new button. When you're on it, you're going to see that new button. Pull the little drop down and see the options. I can maybe build a new list. I can add a new SharePoint page, brand new document library, or maybe I want to look at what kind of apps are available out there. You know, DIT has bought some pretty cool apps that for this calendar thing or this other flow thing. Cool. They put it out there. I can add it to my site by going, if I have the appropriate permissions, by clicking on that new button and seeing what apps are available. I said, I'm sorry about all the animation. I just kind of, I click all the way through it. I would prefer to them just all pop up and then we talk. Like I said, that's a Gregism. I like to show it all and then we talk about it. All right, so listen libraries, when you create a brand new one, they come out of the box with the modern user interface. I personally cannot get the SharePoint product group to tell me why they have the option to look at it in the classic view. My logic is because, well, SharePoint Online is kind of fairly new to a lot of folks. They're still comfortable with the classic view. Ugh. I would like to get away from everything classic because it's got COVID and just stay all modern because I like the modern experience. Okay. Noticing also that says this experience is faster, has additional phone and tablet features and simpler navigation. Yes, when you use the modern experience, you have lots more functionality as well as when you're looking at it on a mobile device. So just stay away. But yep, you can switch back and forth. Why? I don't know. I'm limited. I feel like I'm handcuffed when I'm looking at something in the classic view. Really not. I can't understand why. Oy. All right. Contributing to the lists. If a list, remember, what did I say a list was? It's just like a online spreadsheet. Rows, columns, fill in the blanks, add, select a drop down, whatever the case might be. You can add using the form, which could later on, if we come back to the next class, we're going to take a list and we're going to modify that generic white form that has the fields and you click save. We're going to modify that in the Power User class using a Power App. We can add pictures, we can change different colors, lots of cool things that we can do. We can even say, hey, hide that. I don't need to see that anymore. I don't even want that in my form anymore. Those are some of the things we're going to do when we get to the Power User workshop. Okay, and then there's the option to the quick edit. Hey, it's just basically opening it in spreadsheet view and tab to where you need to fill in the blanks or pull the drop down and then save and edit and you're done. Contributing to libraries. I think we've all done it. I sure hope we've all at least uploaded a file at some point in our professional careers to SharePoint. Very simple. You can create a new file directly on that library. You can say new, and then you'll say, let's say a Word document, and you're opening up Word within there and you create file, and finish it up and save it, and it saves it automatically to that library. There's drag and drop, as you can see. There's the options for syncing. I don't know, Karen, you can help me out. I don't know the syncing option, if that's available in your environment. Do you guys allow that?
I have to get back with you on that.
Okay.
Yes, we do, by the way.
Oh, okay, there we go. Back to me already. It's good. And that's a great way because there are folks that were very comfortable with the old SharePoint on premises, not online, and allowed them to click view and explorer view. That basically takes that SharePoint library and makes it look like it's in your file explorer. So I can drag and drop folders, move things around, all sorts of neat options. SharePoint Online removed that functionality because it was using what's called a WebDAV connection, which is not as secure. We got rid of that because it's not safe. Okay, in SharePoint Online. But when you sync, now you're looking at it in your own local file explorer, and it does sync properly using the proper, the proper authentication methods that Microsoft needs. Okay. So what do we do with our list? Well, we already mentioned it's just like a glorified spreadsheet that I can add things, I can change things, I can make drop-down menus inside of that. Lots of cool things that you can do. And it has all the functionality that you would, should you, excuse me, with regards to that list, however it is you want to make this bold, you want to make that italicized, you left justify, I want this to be a drop-down menu of A, B, and C. All of that functionality is built within that list when you're working with it as well. You have an
And
option.
Greg,
Yes.
sorry, we actually have a question. Is Power BI an available app?
Oh, I love Power BI. Am I good at it? I'm pretty decent with it. However, Power BI is a very specific license, has a very specific licensing capability. So you just don't get it natively. You have to be licensed for it, but it's built in the capabilities of Power BI. If you're licensed, it's built into the SharePoint lists. And you can say, visualize this list in Power BI, and it'll draft up a nice little pie chart and bar graphs, all that kind of neat stuff for you automatically for lists. Now, if you don't have that license, that capability is not available for you. So it comes with very unique licensing requirements.
Jillian is also asking, why do I find thumbnails.db in my libraries after dragging files from the share drive? Happens when uploading multiple files.
So thumbsdb, what that is when you're looking at certain files within your file explorer, thumbsdb is a hidden file. Okay, sometimes when people migrate using specific migrating tools, they say, bring me this folder. That thumbsdb comes with it. And you can't really do anything with it except delete it because it's just a garbage file. And I'm trying to remember what the Mac equivalent, I think it was _DS store or DS _store, something to that effect. They all have a way to thumbnail everything. And it keeps a track of everything inside of that thumbs.db. It's a useless file, but it's when you're dragging and dropping, you might also be dragging and dropping that thumbsdb file that's a hidden file. So if you got thumbsdb, delete them. They're no good for you. And I think it's DS Store 1 or something to that effect, the Mac equivalent. All right, continuing on here, we're looking at the details. So notice what I'm looking at. In this particular example, I'm looking at a line entry in a list. Okay, but I can also click on the details view. See how there's a little eye up here, a little information icon, and I can see, let's say this particular list had 17 columns. Man, that's a lot of data. And I'd have to scroll left and right to maybe try to see it all. If I click on the information, it'll show me all the columns here. And then it also gives me who has access, who's done what, all that kind of neat stuff, including versioning and so forth. So that's a cool option, is to know that that details pane exists for you. All right, one more pop quiz. I wonder if we can get one more slide deck in. A list is now considered an app, true or false, yes or no?
False.
True.
True.
The trues have it. Remember, we're trying to modernize the terminology. Everything is an app. A list, a library, a web part, everything is an app nowadays. We're just trying to get all hip like cell phones. All right, how do you create lists or libraries? I'm not sure I walked through this step. No, I did. On your main page, there is a button that says
New.
yes. Thank you. Thank you. I paused for that dramatic effect and you came through. Thank you so much. Yes, you click on that little button and then it'll ask you, do you want to create a new list, a new library, a new file? What do you want to add? Somebody give me some answers.
Drag and
Keeping one.
drop.
That's
upload.
one. Uh-huh. I thought you were reading my slides because you're like the first two bullets.
Sync.
Right out.
Create
Sync is
new.
one of them. Yes.
Upload.
Create new.
And create new. I love you guys, man. You guys are doing great. Really, really paying attention. It's warming my heart. Thank you so much. All right, so just kind of what we covered on lists and libraries. I think we all now know and understand what a list is, right? It's like that online glorified spreadsheet where I can add things to rows and columns. And a library is where I just put my stuff. Cool. By show of thumbs, because I see we still have about 100 or so people in here. How is my tempo? Am I going too fast or too slow? If you like it, give me some thumbs up, please. Oh, I got a hand raised. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so for my hand raised, folks, is that a question for me? Nope, the hands went down. Cool beans. Awesome. I just didn't want to seem like you are being pressured into, oh my God, he's just trying to cram all this down our throat before, he's got to go or we got to go. I want to make sure we got a good pace. By the way, I'm pacing around my office because I can't sit still. And this is kind of why I turned off my camera too, because I talk with my hands, originally from Brooklyn. So my hands are always going. And I'm pacing around, looking out the window and chatting with you guys. All righty. Customizing lists and libraries. So this is a perfect transition. We just talked about how to make them. Okay, we know what they are. How do we customize them? Now, in this particular class, the end user, which is what you're going through today, I'm going to talk about them. The next workshop, when we go, if you come back, which I hope to see some of you guys' names back on the next one, we're actually going to do this. It's built in time for you all to customize what it is I'm going to show you. Okay. So let's bring it up. What's our objective? Lots of ways to customize a list, man, and libraries. It's pretty cool. I'd like to learn how to do these things. I want to do these things. I got to come back to Greg's next class. Rodney and Michelle, Karen, let me know when I can sign up because I want to do those things. So we're talking about views. All right. I want to talk about views as well. Views are extremely important, but let's talk about columns. Column is exactly what you hear. You're all familiar with what a column is when it comes to SharePoint, or excuse me, in Excel. It's column A, column B. But how does that relate into SharePoint? It is a form of metadata. And what somebody is probably asking me, Greg, I've heard the term metadata. What is metadata? Metadata is just data about data, information about that file or information about that entry. That's what metadata. Metadata are things like when was it created? Who was it created by? Who made version number 3? Those types of things. Who's the author? All those types of things are considered forms of metadata. Okay? What's really cool is that with that metadata, when we create views, which we're going to come into views here in a little bit as well, we'll talk about views in a little bit, you can organize your data by those columns. So let me give you an example. Let's say we build a list of who likes ice cream. There's going to be a couple of questions. Number one, do you like ice cream? Yes or no, or maybe I'm lactose intolerant. Okay, those are your three options: yes, no, and I can't. Okay, then we have question number 2. Choose your favorite ice cream from the following. We rattle off a whole bunch. And then number 3, do you prefer to eat it in a cone or in a cup? That's a cone or cup is just answer 1 or answer 2. Now, when we get done, we can create views grouped by, do you like ice cream? Let me see all the yeses and then count them. Let me see all the no's. Let me see all of the I can't because I'm lactose intolerant. Okay, cool. So that's an easy way to organize it. We can also organize it by who likes cone, who likes a cup. Or we can group them also by, hey, these are all the strawberry, these are all the rocky roads, here's the butter pecan. Awesome. Just by creating views based off of those selections in those columns. Okay, so creating a column, beautiful thing. This is why we do the modern experience, by the way. You can create a column on the fly. Like I'm looking at this library here and it's like, boop, I can add an additional column, maybe a number column or a yes, no, or maybe I can change that yes, no to cone or cup. Okay, lots of options, and you can create them on the fly. Before, it was a little more cumbersome to go into the list or library settings, then add a new column and then create the column. It's right on the fly now. Okay. Column types. Let me pull this up. Here are your column types. A single line of text can hold up to 256 characters. So keep that in mind. If you want somebody to write a small paragraph, you might run out of room. Then go into your multiple lines of text. A multiple line of text can contain 65,536 characters, and that includes spaces and special characters. So 65,536. That's a lot of information, but it can hold that. Choice menu: rocky road, butter pecan, chocolate, mint chocolate chip, whatever. Those are choices. Numbers is exactly what it sounds like. You can do currency. So by now you've probably looked at all those different bullets. Just want you to understand what they are. There is an option in here called lookup. This is another one. This will be more in the Power User Workshop next time, where I can create a column here that's getting data from somewhere else that I have access to. Okay, maybe you can even do something like a calculated column. For example, if I put in a line entry of this is order number 1, ordered on this date, promised to the customer by, let's say 31 March. I can put in a calculated column to say if it's promised to the customer by 31 March, it's got to ship by 31 March minus 7. So better be on a bus or whatever, plane or whatever, by 24 March, and it can give you that calculated date. 31 March minus 7 equals 24 March. We need to make sure it's shipped by that date. Okay, that's the calculated column, and it can do things to that effect. Your most common ones, as you can see, text, date, number, currency, ones that are just used a lot of. Okay, I do like choices. I do like lookup columns, and they're very your choice columns are customizable, man. Whatever you want it to be. Remember, I was giving you strawberry, mint chocolate chip. That's one. We can do yes, no, maybe lactose intolerant, only on Fridays. Whatever options that you put in there is what's available for them to select in that choice. Also, when it comes to choice, you can have a radio button where they can only select one, or you can have a square choice button where they can select more than one. Like, Greg, I can't choose. It's either mint chocolate chip or butter pecan or strawberry. I like them all. Click, click, click. Cool. Select multiple options. Those are the types of things that you can do with these choice columns. This is something you will do, I promise you, in our next class. We're going to take basic list and we're going to pretty it up with column formatting. Things like we're going to use data bars based on this number. And it'll grow. If it's only 2s and 4s, and then there's an 11, you're going to see a 2, little kind of narrow, and then a 4 is a little more wide, and then the 11's like, whoa, a lot wider, because they will base it off of that number in that field. And let's say I want, if they say yes to ice cream, it's green. If they say no, they don't like ice cream, then it's red. Awesome. Or the lactose intolerant people, we're going to make them blue. Whatever. We're going to do this formatting in our next class. This is an optional way, and I'm going to kind of zoom in, and this is for those that are very developer minded. If you like code, learn JSON, and you are going to make your SharePoint sites sing and dance and part the seas, the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel, because you can make it do so much with JSON. Now, all of this, when you create a formatting of any kind, all of this is automatically generated for you. So maybe you wanted to use this somewhere else, or you had a developer tweak it and had some pretty cool options. Copy that code out, paste it into your other site. Bazinga, it works. Okay. So just some options, but these are the types of things that we're going to do in the Power User workshop. Filters, guys, I can't stress filters enough. Filters are a wonderful way to say, oh, God, Greg, there's like 1,300 files in here, and I think it was a PDF. Well, guess what? Pull on that little funnel icon up there in the upper right-hand corner and say, show me the PDFs. And then you say, you know what? I think it was Tom. So let's select Tom as the author, and it narrows it down until you say, there's the PDF file that he told me about. I just couldn't remember the name of it, but I knew Tom built it. Awesome. You have that filtering capability out of the box. You don't need to be an owner. You don't need to be an admin. Anybody can do this on any list or library that you have access to. Site columns. I talked a little bit about this, and I did tell you we're going to do this in your Power User workshop. I know you're probably like, God, he is so selling the next class, so now I have to come back. Good, I want you to come back and spend some time with me. But site columns is reusable data. One of the things we're going to do is we're going to build a site column, and we're going to add it to every list or library we have, because instead of creating, let's say we use that choice field for, 13 different flavors or 31 flavors of Baskin-Robbins ice creams. Do you want to type that 31 times in all your different lists or libraries, or create it once as a site column and then plug it in wherever you want? That's reusable data. That's site columns. We're going to cover that a lot better. I know we're at the top of the hour. If you guys don't mind, I'd like to push a little bit, finish this slide deck, take a quick break, and then we'll do our last slide deck. Is that okay with you guys? Hope so.
I think that's good.
Okay. Cool. Now, site columns. One thing to also know about site columns, you can create list columns, library columns, but they are not reusable. Meaning, if I build it in library 1, I can't use that list column of the 31 Baskin-Robbins flavors in library 2. However, if I create it as a site column, then I can use it anywhere in my site collection, on all my lists, on all my libraries if I wanted to. That's reusable data. Okay. This one is one of those Greg likes to get up on a soapbox. So I apologize, and if I'm going to offend you or hurt your feelings, I really don't mean to, okay? But too many times, users will come back and say, but I need to see everything. And if it contains more than 5,000 items, that's not just 5,000 rows. That's including counting the columns for each one of them rows. When you exceed 5,000 items, in a list or a library, you run the risk of slowing down all of your users' experience because you're saying, I need to see it all, Greg. Well, number one, it's a physical impossibility for the human eyeball to see more than 80 items. Even that's pushing it. Where we can create views on seeing the appropriate things. Maybe I only want to look at the things that begin with the letter A, or I only want to look at the things that were uploaded in the last 30 days. Those are better views created to pull out the information that you're really looking for. I only want to see people with area code 722. Okay, boom. Instead of saying, I need to see them all. When those, and by the way, when a list or library is created, the default view is all items. Show me everything. Is that a bad thing that Microsoft did? No. I mean, when you first start something, you want to be able to see everything. Is it growing the way I want it to be? Is it posted in the way I need it to be? But at some point, when it gets beyond that 5,000, it's what you need to do. And I'm going to give you a little technical background on this. When a request goes to SQL, because everything you see in SharePoint Online is stored in SQL. That stands for Structured Query Language. It's in a database, bunch of zeros and ones. But when it exceeds 5,000 items, SQL says, I can get that for you, but I got to put everything else on pause. So it stops everything, churns out all your 5,000 plus items, then displays it on the web for you. Then the rest of the stuff starts coming through. But when people are hitting that all items all the time and refresh, gosh, this is taking forever, refresh, you're sending more than 5,000 items every time to SQL. And SQL says, okay, hold on, I'm going to stop everything so I can give you this. Create better views. Okay. So creating those views, you can do things like filtering, save that as a view. You can do grouping, save that as a view. Lots of different options. Okay. I forgot to do all of those. I apologize. I don't know what this is. Oh, yeah. Once you create that view, how you want it, and it's bringing you back the relevant data, save the view. Okay. And one more. Like I said, I apologize. I got on a soapbox. I've been walking around my office the whole time. So creating custom views helps you, helps everyone else, because if you're putting that demand, that strain on SQL, it literally holds everything else up till it gives you the everything. And I've had folks that have, 77,000 documents in the library. I need to see them all. And I'm like, bruh, you really can't. Why are you putting everyone else at risk or to wait for you to show you all 77,000 items? Because you're not going to work with 77,000 items. Come on. Let's build a good view. Let's build a bunch of views. Excuse me. I'm almost done, I promise. This is like, I guess I got a little ahead of myself. I'll get on that soapbox. So yes, when your things exceed 5,000 items, can it? Yes. Remember, how many did I say? Somebody tell me, how many items can I put in the list or library? Maximum. It wasn't 32,000.
3 million.
30 million. That's
30
right.
million.
30 million. So yeah, that's way above 5,000. Imagine what'll happen if someone says, show me all 30 million. You might as well, go outside and have lunch, come back later on. Building a view can help you to really identify what it is you're looking for. Okay. This is kind of what Greg was saying. When you hit that over 5,000, things get stopped. It's like, oh, that's a whole lot. Hold on a minute. I got all these requests coming in from all these different web pages. I'm going to stop. I'm going to work on this, churn it all out, convert those zeros and ones to beautiful things on a web page and send it back to you. That delay albeit small. Sometimes, I've even seen, 30,000 items coming back and it'll take 4 or 5 seconds. Not bad. But it could have been a half a second with only looking for the real things you're looking for. So I don't want to stay on the soapbox. Plus we're over time, so I want to give you guys a little break, but let's do our pop quiz. 2 easy ways. Been talking about them a lot. Saving something as once you have it how you want it sorted. I'm going to give you guys this one because I think I feel bad because I feel like I kind of spoke at you instead of with you on this last module. So I'm taking a breath and apologizing. I'm sorry. So it's columns of views are the best way for you to customize a list. Okay. If you have a column that is appropriate for many lists and libraries, sounds like reusable information. What would I create here if I needed something that I wanted to reuse everywhere? Don't say Baskin Robbins 31 flavors.
Was it a site column?
Yeah, man, high five, dude. I gave you a virtual fist bump. Awesome. All right, I didn't cover this, but when would you use quick edit mode? This is when you're looking at a list, okay? When you're looking at a list, it's like a spreadsheet. Remember, it's like that spreadsheet online. I just need to edit 1 or 2 things on these 5 or 6 rows. Well, rather than editing each one at a time, you can do quick edit mode, and you open up in spreadsheet mode, change, exit, and now you've saved 7 or 8 rows all very quickly. Cool. All right, I've got 207, 208. Now it just changed to 208. Let's come back at 215, please. We got one more deck, and let's take a break. Enjoy your next 7 minutes. Hi, Karen.
Greg?
I know you wanted a few minutes, so the show is all yours.
All right. Well, everyone, I added a few links in the chat. The first one is to the All Things M365 user group. It is a team, and it's comprised of M365 users, end users from across the state in various agencies, where they ask questions of us, of the staff members, and work with each other as a community to answer questions and share experiences. And we encourage you to join the group and interact with us. It's the largest community of practice in the state. The second one is to some training that we currently have scheduled with other Microsoft presenters, though I will say they're probably not as entertaining as Greg has been, though it's definitely quality training. And so I encourage you to go out and take a look. The final link is for the All Things M365 newsletter, which goes out about once a month. And if you're not, it goes out to anyone with an M365 license. So hopefully you're all receiving it. However, if you're not, just feel free to message me here or email me at karen.mann@nc.gov, and I will get you subscribed. And that's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Karen, for sharing that information. And guys, I am part and active on the M365 All Things. So you can reach me in there too. If you've got questions, hey, Greg, you said something about, hey, ping me in there. That's fine. I will respond and help you out. So thank you, Karen, for sharing that as well. All right. We're in the home stretch, guys. We're finalizing it. We're going to be able to, oh my God, I got to stretch my legs. And some of us, like myself and my wife, we have to go pick up our kiddo from school in a little while. So it's kind of good that we're wrapping up right about now as well. So here we go. So I'm going to talk a little bit about web parts. What did I say web parts are also being rebranded as? Can somebody tell me?
Applications.
Yes, apps, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. So we're going to talk a little bit about web parts. This isn't a very long slide deck. It's only 13 slides and we're already on number 3. So we're doing pretty darn good. How do we insert them? In the Power User Workshop, we're going to go a little bit more in depth. I love that I already saw people saying, how do I get that class? When do I sign up? Awesome. Looking forward to seeing you guys again. So cool. So we're going to talk about what is a web part. Okay, here we go. So web parts are just what it kind of sounds like. There's something that I'm adding to my page, that web page, that's going to perform a function of something, whether it's show me documents, whether it's going to be pulling in a news feed from another site, whatever that web part function is what it's designed to do, and you can make it do for you when you add it to a web page. We have things broken into like different categories. Let me pull these up here for you. All right. The featured ones are most likely the ones that Microsoft is trending. We feel these are the trending web parts, so we push them up to the top. But then we have things like text, media, and content. So you look and see right behind there, you'll see things like maps, a divider, an embed, a file viewer. You'll see things like document library preview. That's pretty good, and that's in the discovery section. I can preview documents without actually opening a document. It's like, was this the PowerPoint that he talked about 3 weeks ago? Nope, that's not it. Was it this one? Nope. No. With this document library preview, it allows me to kind of like, oh, I see. I can actually maneuver through a Word document or a PowerPoint, just kind of go through, yes, this is the one. That was the slide I was looking for. Now let me go ahead and open it. Okay, the hero web part, which is by default added onto your communication sites, it can be added anywhere, not just the communication sites. There's things like business intelligence. That's somebody asked about Power BI. Love that you brought up Power BI. Wonderful functionality, but remember, very unique licensing. It's not a everyone gets. Okay, so let's go take a look at how our pages are currently set up. We used to call these things zones. Okay, now we're calling them sections. In SharePoint On-Prem, just to give you a little backstory, SharePoint On-Prem, when we built a page, it was built with a zone, and the zone was one way and one way only. So if you said, okay, I want this web page to have these 3 columns, then that's it. The whole page will be 3 columns. Now, with the modern experience of modern web part pages, we can create many sections with whatever kind of layout you want. Like this, for example, I can say maybe this section I wanted 3, but now below it, I want a 1/3 right and 2/3 on the left, just to kind of split my data apart. One of the best things you can do, guys, and if you're laying out a web page, is make your site interesting. Don't overflood it with a lot of information. Okay. Reason being, Microsoft, as well as other groups such as the Nielsen Group, has done a ton of research on web page reading. And what happens is folks will read the web part in what's called an F pattern. So imagine this was a wall of words. People will start reading and then they start making it shorter and shorter. And by the time they get down, it kind of resembles a letter F. Okay, as they go out, and then this is just tracking their eye movement. Now they're just kind of scanning a little bit on the left-hand side. They could be missing out on some good information that was over here, but it was an entire wall of words. They lost interest. F pattern is a really bad thing. The good thing is that our SharePoint pages with these different sections and the way you can lay out data can give them like a teaser. Hey, blah, 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 blah. Click here to read more. Oh, I do want to read that. Click. And they may not do the F pattern. They might actually read all the article because it's what they were specifically looking for. But these can be laid out where it can entice your user to, oh, I need to read more. Hey, how did they do that? Click into it. Okay, so you can add multiple sections on a page. Remember, I was saying, original SharePoint On-Prem, it was 3 columns and the whole page had to be that way. Now it is not. So looking at, like, for example, the text web part. A text web part, guess what? It's just a small version of like Word. If you can do Word, if you can do things like italicize, left justify, right justify, make a bullet, add a hyperlink, all that simple stuff. That's exactly what your text web parts can do for you. Very basic. It's not going to do advanced Word functionality, but it'll give you what you really want to do on that web page. Okay. Oops, I forgot to bring that up. The hero web part. Oh, what? It can't be. What? Sorry. What happened to my hero web part image? It's not there. It's supposed to be in hero here. So what I'll do is I'm going to bring up, oh, Karen, you were supposed to remind me at the end of last module to bring up an example. What was it?
Sorry.
I forgot. No, I forgot. But what was it? Do you remember? Anyone? Bueller? Oh, the sharing experience. Got it. Okay. I made myself remember. All right. Hero web part, most popular, one of the most popular web parts out there, guys. Get it, throw it onto your page because you can do up to 5 tiles. You could do less if you needed to, but you can preview documents on there. You can have, like you see, I can put a spreadsheet, Word doc, I can put a picture, I can put a PowerPoint that someone can just kind of scroll through. The hero web part's very, very popular, very powerful to get your users to say, oh, this page looks pretty cool. Okay.
Greg, I'm going to put a link to the NCDIT SharePoint communication site. And
Awesome.
most of us should be able to click to get to that. And that's a beautiful big hero right there.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I'm going to make it easy for our last pop quiz. It can be inserted anywhere, any column, whatever it is you add to that specific section. When we do the Power User Workshop, you're going to do this. Okay. So let me go ahead and bring up what I wanted to explain was the example. Let me stop sharing and then reshare my screen. Screen there. And Here we go. So in SharePoint, I wanted to show what was called the sharing experience. So I'm going to go to my document library. Now notice, remember I told you you can share the whole site. I can share a file. So here's that little folder with the arrow in it. If I click it, this is the default sharing experience in Greg's personal playground tenant, okay? It starts with people you specify and it's read only, okay? Now, yes, I can say, well, you can edit it, okay? I can change it to, well, I need to send it to somebody outside, or I only want to send it internally. I don't want you to download options, okay? But now what I want to show you, so remember, it says specific people and view. If I go into SharePoint Admin Center, which you all don't have access to, but I'm just going to show you, this decision was made by NCDIT as to what is the sharing experience. So here's the sharing experience. It's set to specific. I could change that and say save. So now watch what will happen when I go to share that exact same file. Click. Now it'll say people within my organization. Most likely in your environment, it'll say people in the state of North Carolina with the link can view, because that's my default experience. So I'm going to go change that again, and I'm going to say they can edit and then save. Now this setting is set already, but this is a tenant wide. So everyone in the state has this setting. So now I'm going to use the exact same document. I'm click share. Now notice it's back to my people, and now they can actually edit. Okay? So that's your sharing experience, but you do have the ability to go in and say, oh, no, I don't want them to change. It doesn't need, I need to share this with somebody outside of the company. So they specifically have to go ahead and change this. And then they're going to say, okay, let me send it to greg@gmail.com. And there, I'm going to share it with him. Oh, this particular site doesn't allow sharing outside. I have changed it multiple times. I didn't know what my last setting was, but yeah, I have this site not allowed to share externally. You will get that exact same thing if you try to share something with me at Microsoft and that site isn't set for external sharing. So that's the example of what you would get. Cool. That's what I wanted to show. Thanks, Karen. Appreciate you helping me remember because I had forgotten.
No problem.
Okay, so guys, this brings me to the end of our end user training today. I really, really hope you at least learned one, maybe two things. If you learned a lot, even better. But I want to be sure that I tell you, you have given me the most precious gift you can ever offer, and that is your time. Because that's something I could never give back to you. So I hope that I've earned the privilege of your time since 10 o'clock this morning. I thank you. I look forward to working with all of you, hopefully in the next class, as well as on that All Things M365 team. Any questions before we adjourn?
Hey, Greg, this is Michael. I did have one question about the last thing you just shared.
Okay.
So we use document libraries too, and we establish rights down.
Michael.
Michael, I think we lost you.
Yeah, I heard we do established libraries all the way down to lost you, Michael. I will get the slides shared out to Karen, and then she can figure out where she's going to post them for you guys.
Yeah, we'll get the slide deck out to everybody, and Michael, I can reach out to you as well if you want to ping me or ping Greg. He's very approachable, as we all know.
I'm in you guys' tenant too. We lost Michael. I hope he. Oh, you're back. Oh, there you are. Okay.
Well,
now
I've got
we
on my
do.
phone. Nice thing about Teams, you can join on your other device.
Amen.
I think I lost my internet service at the home.
Oh, bummer.
So I was going to ask if, so when we use a document library, we set up all the permissions for people to access it in the respective groups that they're within. Sometimes people will will try to share out a document by just clicking on it and try to share it, and then they'll pass the link to the document. But the link itself gives them access to the location, but they don't have permissions within the folder structure, so they can't actually get to it. Does that make sense so far?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, so what you were just showing there a moment ago, they, as I guess individuals within there, not being any kind of administrative right kind of capabilities, can't change those permissions because they're established by management. So I'm just curious if there's something that I'm missing by chance, or if that's just the way it's supposed to be anyway. Because when they try to do that, I'm always directing them to say, no, make sure you just use a link to it, not try to share it directly to the path, because they don't have rights to that path. And unlike OneDrive, where you can actually drive changes to be able to share out as you need to their OneDrive files, SharePoint documents aren't quite following the same suit. So I don't know if this is more of a conversation or of a real question at the end of it, but it just seemed like when you were showing how you were able to just change those respectively to a SharePoint site, they can't do that on our site for some reason, or by design, I guess you would say.
You should be able to, Michael. You're talking about where I change it from view to edit and edit to view, or block download, or change it from.
Oh, I'm not saying administratively I can't necessarily. I'm just saying that as a user underneath the controls that were established for them, they can't do that. If they have specific rights within there, they don't have a superset of rights to be able to modify or overwrite, I guess you would say, the rights that are assigned to them. So maybe I misread the way you were showing that.
So let me show one more time, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I get it. So what we were talking about, what I make sure I look at it, you're talking about in here, that I can, your users absolutely can change this, and they can do this with one caveat. Okay. Notice how this is grayed out. My tenant doesn't allow me to share anonymous. And if my site only is restricted internally, I can't share externally. I can't override what the site is. So if the site says this site is internal only, I can't go above that. So looking here in the SharePoint Admin Center, for example, right now I've got my entire tenant locked down. Nobody can share anything, anywhere, anytime, because these settings are set. I tried over here saying, well, I'm going to send it to somebody at Gmail. You saw the error I got. Okay. And I believe Karen said there are certain sites that are allowed to share externally. Most likely SharePoint is set to here, to new and existing guests. And then granularly, they can say sites 1, 2, 3 can share externally. Everybody else is a no. Until they fill out a form, and attend some type of training, whatever the state's mandate is. Yes, as a user of the tenant, we have to comply.
Yeah, I think the variant is, I think it's the way we set up the document library in general is for internal use only. So that's probably where the governing piece is there.
So there's also another option as well when we're looking at how you can manage permissions inside of a library as well. You can, for example, even in here or in this site, I can say who can and who can't. So the default permissions are site owners and members can share files, or you can go all the way down and say, nope, only the owners of the site, even if the site is allowed to share externally. And if I'm not an owner, I can't share externally. But notice in this other option says, okay, site owners and members can share files and all that stuff, but only the owners can share the whole site. I like these options because remember, we want to go ensure what we're sharing is still utilizing the least access privileges that they need. So if you're not a site owner, check with the site owner, see what options they have here. How did you get to that? I'll show you. Discard. So I can be in the site itself or anywhere I'm going to the gear, and I go into the site permissions and then change how members can share. Your site owners, if you're not one, have the ability to change that setting and may not even allow you.
I am, and the last one is the one that's selected on mine. Only site owners can share files. Those
Oh,
that's
awesome.
whoever's is currently set.
Okay, cool.
Okay, no, that's good. I mean, I don't think it's working improperly. I just noticed that it seemed like there was a variant on what you were showing it you were doing versus what we experienced locally. I guess it's just the way we've had it set up originally and haven't changed it.
Michael, thank you. I'm hoping your elbow's ready for opening day.
Yeah,
Just joking.
I play. Yeah, I hear you. It'll take a little more practice for me to get back into baseball.
Me too. All right, Karen. I think we are finished. I do have to jet out to go pick up my kiddo, but I will share the slides with you within the hour once I get home.
All righty. And we'll make sure that everyone gets them.
Awesome, awesome.
All right. Thank you all for joining us today. We really appreciate Greg's time. We appreciate you joining us. And please check out those links. Join the user group if you'd like. And we hope you are getting the All Things M365 newsletter. And also just a note, we're going to have a full day of a conference, a full day of different sessions on May 17th. That's going to be the All Things M365 conference, and details about that will be going out soon. So hope to see you there.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye now.